Okay, SC38. Today we are going to discuss events in SAP ABAP. ZT69 events 08 July 28. Okay, local object. For the meantime, it will get ready. We will copy the code. Okay. Uh, Data WMAC type Mac is a table, parameters PMATNR type mat matner, which is material number. So parameter matner will get the input in the type of material number, which can be alphanumeric. Okay. And but in part two, what we'll do, we'll remove this and we'll add parameters p matter, type matter, default 100, period, type, system datum. Now this is parameter date, type, system datum, date that is shown in system. It will be taken as a parameter in date variable, p date variable. Okay. We want to default a value at the very start in parameters field when we run this. Okay. So parameters p matner, type matner, but since we don't want to use this one, we will not highlight that. We will, we will just, okay. Okay. System datum. Okay. And next is use cases that user wants to see default value. This default value. Okay, 100. That's why we use the word, the keyword default. Use case, we want to show uh, today's date, and tomorrow it should show tomorrow's date by default. Okay, it should publish the date. Default cannot be used as it is static, because since date is dynamic, default cannot be used for dates. System is creating a data object pdate and storing a value, and this data object is also pulling a value from user. Okay, so date is, since dynamic, it changes. Okay, it changes with the system. Material number doesn't change with the system, with the date change. Okay, so what we'll do, we will write this code. P date is equal to system datum. Thing is, it doesn't show the date at selection screen as selection screen executed before the date is defaulted. And the system executes events with selection screen. Okay. System has events that are systems process that cannot be forced. We have to place the code in a way it can show events processing our code. So various events can be executed. What I'll do, I'll just copy all this and it will serve as our notes. P date is equal to system datum. Also for including incorrect spellings or comma errors. Comma errors. Okay. P date is equal to, okay, if it is giving errors, we'll just pull this right now and we'll see it later. Okay. So various events can be executed, list events and selection screen events. Now let's pull this. Let's pull this. Okay, we have deactivated that. Parameters p matter, type matter, default 100. Okay, and p date type system datum. At selection screen output. At selection screen output, p date is equal to system datum. Now, at selection screen, now this is an event that is fired. Okay, and p date is equal to system datum. Let's check whether the syntax is going correct. It is going correctly right now. So events are triggered. Events are used and triggered by event keywords. Any code below the event belongs to the event. How does an event end? It automatically ends with the start of another event. Okay. Parameters p matter, type matter. Okay. At selection screen output, it shows the screen before its event is executed but triggered, used to validate some data. So when we are writing at selection screen output, it is actually triggering an event. Rather, an event has been triggered. At selection screen, whenever this is used, it will only trigger the values after the selection screen is shown. Selection screen is when we actually run it with direct processing, the first screen. Whatever screen is generated using parameter screen options is selection screen. Any screen generated using write statement is list screen. So whatever we actually output at the end of the code, it produces a list screen. Typically, there are three types of screen. List, which is often triggered by the keyword write, screen, and normal. The order in which you write the code has no relevance because uh, these these events have no order. You can use them however you actually want them. Okay, start of selection. Now this is start of selection is another event. Okay, so I'll copy this. Okay, and I'll copy this as well. And start of selection, select single. At output, start of selection, this is next event. This is first event, and this is next event. So once this is over, once this is triggered, it gets over when we actually write another event. This is event. So with that triggering of this event, it will trigger and it will execute this code. Select single all records from MAKT into work area where matner is equal to p matner. Okay. Right. Now this write will produce list screen work area. At selection screen, now this is third event. P date is equal to system datum. Now this is being repeated again. What I'll do is I will deselect this, and this is the event. Code is generated with events. So whenever it is triggered, this is triggering. That means the code is getting loaded and it will be executed. Select single record from all information from one record from MAKT into work area where matner is equal to p matner, right? Work area mapped. Okay. Check. Already specified in the program. Okay. Okay, what we'll do, we'll deselect this one and execute this one. Okay. P date side add. Okay. Check. Okay. Activate. Direct processing. Now this is basically event have been fired. I will show how to actually check the events, how it is fired using F1, okay, and F8 as well, and debugger. Okay, this is the default today's date, 8th of July, and this is the material, MM01PP, MM01PP. This is a new material that we have actually created. Okay, now it is actually producing two results because we might have two write statements. Okay, now let us debug. Now debugging is another skill that you should know, write and write. So we will only and we'll deactivate this one at selection screen output, at selection screen output. Okay, activate. Data processing. Now it is not giving the date, P date. Okay, P date because at this event was bypassed. So it did not. So what it did, because before this there was no event. So it actually jumps to the event and goes to the next event and then actually executes anything that is out of the events. So it gives priority to events. Okay. Now, if what I do is I execute and deactivate this one and this one, activate. Okay, now we have it. Events. This is basically the events, and I want to actually show debugger over here. Okay, you just double click over here, it actually captures the debugger. Okay. Now, whenever I execute this, a debugger can only be fixed. A breakpoint can be given only when the code is active, not inactive. So it will take me to another session. Execute. Now the debugger will start. Ready. Taking some time. Okay. Now it will start from here. This is where it will go in that sequence. Okay, I'll press F5. Start of selection is the event. Okay, you see this? This is the event it will trigger. Now the next part is event has been triggered because this is where it is at this position. So it will select single from MAKT into WM Act. So I will double click WM Act. Okay, and it will show me the results in WM Act. And this is how you actually debug your programs. Okay. And next is F5. Now it is loading. Start of selection again. The next one, it actually encountered. Okay. And this is stack level. Again, next event. Select single from MAKT. Now here is the program. Double click. Okay. If I exit this because it will just exit the program. Don't want to do that. Ah, this is the problem. Anyways, SC38 change. So this is the code that we have actually written today. Let me give you another program. Okay. Double click this and it goes away. Okay. Let's write another program. Another event. Now this will be list event. Let's go to the code. Okay. Data, WMACT, type MACT, parameters, default 100, period, system datum. At line selection, this is another event that will be fired. So priority is given to events. Call this transaction MM03. Start of selection event. Select single into work area where matna is equal to P matna. All records from this table, when it matches material number of this table with parameter matna, right? The work area. At selection screen output, it also show P date, system date. Every single line of code will belong to an event. If no event is defined explicitly, it will keep the code under start of selection. So if no events are defined, it will be assumed that it is part of start of selection event. Okay. Okay, let me just pull this with the notes. Start of selection. Check. Activate. Direct processing. System date is being shown over here. MM01PP. Execute. 100 is the client because we actually said select single star. Star means all records. This is 100 is client. Client which one? This one, 100. MM01PP because material is always created at the client level, not plant level. It is basically assigned to a plant later on. Okay. Material master PP config. Material master PP config. This is actually pulling the description in small, the one field that is in small caps and the other one is in capital caps. Okay. Okay. So this is the code that we have used and executed using events. Okay. Any questions over here? Any questions so far? Okay, let me okay. ABAP runtime environment. The runtime environment represents highest controlling instance. No ABAP program can run without it. What we've actually seen is runtime environment. At runtime, we've actually executed our code. It is responsible for flow control of dialog. We've seen the flow control of our ABAP program. The structure basically is that how ABAP programs are actually coded. Declaration, then processing. We declare the data, the parameters, the structures, and then we actually bring the logic in processing block. And then comes the call to write, to produce, to calculate, and there is a sequence. Okay. Sequence with loops. We actually have seen the loops as well, and ending where we end the loops and the statements, of course. Okay. So declaration is basically we actually define the data objects. We've already seen that, okay, in detail. Processing blocks are indivisible syntax units. It cannot include another processing block. So a processing block is different from every other processing block. Okay. So processing block is also loaded into the memory. Call is basically how processing blocks are called, the events. Okay. We call the events. We invite the events, we trigger the events like start of selection, at line selection, and so on. At selection screen output, this is also keyword of event. The order of processing blocks in programming code is irrelevant to the sequence in which they are executed. Only the code in a processing block is executed sequentially. Processing block, that can be an event. We actually tell it to process or compute or calculate, okay, or write anything that actually happens sequentially. So when execution is of processing is finished, control is returned to the caller. Ending. The execution of processing block can be ended in one or two ways. It can be end when the last statement of the processing block has been executed by using check or exit statements. You'll also see that. On each termination, control is returned to the caller. However, it should be known that within loops, check and exit affect only the current loop processing. So if there are loops within a loop, which is possible, then it will end the current loop, not the previous one in which it is running. In latest version, there is statement return, which will always quit the processing block independent of the context. Return basically goes back to the caller. Okay. All valid statements of ABAP program that are not part of global data declarations belong definitely to a processing block. So processing block here is event. Okay. The events that we trigger. To understand ABAP program, it is important to identify the various processing blocks to know at what point they will be executed. Okay. So I hope this is clear. Let me just share another part of the program. And okay, I hope this is clear. Next is data work area format. Parameters pmatter default 100, pdate, pmatner is 100. Okay. Start of selection. Select single from MAGT into work area and select single from MAGT into. Okay, let me. Okay. Start of selection. Select single from MAGT into work area by matner is equal to pmatner. This is the same and this is the same. Okay. To show how the code without event is clubbed under default event. Okay, right? WMAC. So one of them will actually go. At selection screen output, we'll delete this and then we'll run this. At selection screen output, pdate is equal to site datum. So start of selection will come here. We'll remove from up there and we will actually start of selection will happen from here. At selection screen output. Okay. Select single from MAGT into work area. Matner is equal to pmatner. Start of selection is standard event of the program. It is understood by default standard event of the program. Okay. So let's copy this. Executable program. Save. Okay. Okay. Start of selection. We'll not use it over here at selection screen output. At selection, start of selection. Okay. Select single. Okay. Start of selection is standard event of program. Okay, fine. At line selection. Okay. Check. Activate. Direct processing. It's not actually initiating it. Okay. What we'll do, and remove this. Add selection screen output. Activate. Direct processing. Now it is showing. Why? Because over here at start of selection, it was already at the output screen. It was showing the output and the order was actually not in place. It triggered and then it actually triggered this also. Okay. Start of selection is the first event. Okay. And I'll remove this from here and write work area. Activate. Okay. Direct processing. 100, MM01 PP. It's not producing that because the events are actually event. Executing is not going ahead. Start of selection, P date, selection split output. The end line selection, right? Activate. No, it's not showing P date. So this is how you have to actually play around with the code to understand how it is responding to the events. Okay. Events are getting triggered and some events get triggered first. Yeah. Producing somehow. Anyways, we'll go ahead. Okay. Selection screen output. Let me deselect this. Activate. It's not producing the date also. 0807-2024. Anyways, not still producing, but anyways, I must actually look into it and see where it is not giving us the desired output. Anyways, this was today's our events lecture. I hope you got an idea how it is actually done.